All right, come on in, everybody. Welcome back to the Holler. tnholler.com is where you can find us at the TN Holler on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, all that good stuff. Shout out to the people who support us, like Abby Rubenfeld, if you need a lawyer, Elisa Parker, if you're buying or selling a home in Middle Tennessee, and Gay Veterans, a new sponsor of ours. And if you want a hat like the one I'm wearing, just go to tnholler.com, chip in a few bucks a month and grab one. All right, let's get to it. I just wanted to hop on here today because anybody that follows us knows by now there is something very unique to Tennessee going on, something that I think should be a bigger deal than it is. I don't know why it's not a bigger deal in the country, but it's not every day that you see the current Speaker of the House in Tennessee, Republican Speaker Cameron Sexton, is going to be testifying in a federal corruption trial against the former Republican Tennessee Republican Speaker of the House. So that trial is going on right now. Speaker Casada and his former chief of staff, Cade Cothran, are on trial for corruption. Day 4 was today, and I went down there today, and I just kind of wanted to recap for you what happened today for those of you who are interested. I'd actually like to see in the comments how many of you are following this, are interested in it. Like, to me, it's amazing. Like, I mean, I can't believe we're here. This has been kind of in the works for 4 years, and it's finally happening. A lot of us kind of thought it would never get to this point, but apparently Speaker Casada was offered a plea deal. He declined it. And here we are on day 4 of the trial. And I went down there. I was there all day today. And I want to tell you what happened. First of all, I haven't really spent a lot of time in federal courtrooms, but, you know, they're very serious places and they don't let you bring your phone in at all. So you have to bring a pen and pad. And so I did that, and I didn't have a pen and pad. So I asked my daughter to hook me up, and this is what she gave me. This is the BFF pad that I used to take notes today, and that's what I'm going to use to remind myself what happened right now. Highly recommend getting yourself a BFF pad if you don't have one. Well, first I'll just work from memory. This was, by the way, on the way in today. We saw a few of the players coming in. Speaker Casada was walking in, and Cade Cothran were walking in, and I got there just in time to see them both. And our friend Ray DiPetro took a picture of me taking a video of them. That's me in both of these. Ray's really great photographer. That's his picture on the bottom of me trying to get some information from Cade, although his lawyer said no comment, which is understandable, I guess. And there I am videoing Casada. Casada, I did want to show you the video of that, you know, because my big question for Casada is in the news this week. His comments, or his lawyer's comments, are basically saying that Speaker Sexton set him up, that basically Speaker Sexton worked with the FBI to set him up and take him down, essentially, which, you know, knowing Cameron Sexton, like, it's believable. I don't know. But also the timing of it is weird because, like, this all stems from Cade Cothran, his chief of staff, allegedly setting up a fake company to handle mailers from the Republican caucus, a company called Phoenix Solutions. And allegedly he set up this fake company and they were steering business his way and getting kickback. So that's what this all entails, an alleged kickback scheme where Casada was steering business to his former chief of staff. This is long after they had both been disgraced by these scandals, you know, involving ugly text messages, racist text messages, cocaine at the office, like all this nonsense, to the point where there was a no confidence vote in former Speaker Casada. And then after that, when Cade was gone out of the legislature and when Casada was no longer speaker, allegedly they set up, or Cade set up, this business, and Casada was steering him business from the Republican caucus to do these mailers using partly state funds and then getting kickbacks. And that's the allegation. That's what we're dealing with. And allegedly, I'm saying allegedly a lot, but allegedly other Republicans in the caucus were wearing wires and working with the FBI to take down their own people, which you would think other Republicans would be mad about. But as far as I can tell, really, only Republican Representative Todd Warner has really spoken out about this. And so my question to Speaker Casada today was like, why aren't other Republicans mad about this? Why aren't more Republicans upset that you may have gotten set up by a political rival, Glenn? Seems like that. How do you think things are going so far? Seems like other Republicans should be concerned if that's what happened. All right, so he didn't really answer me, but I just wanted to give you that footage. That's walking in today. That's Casada. That's exclusive footage of me trying to get Casada to talk. It's been a long time coming for the guy who campaigned on Christian values, our old buddy Brad Fiskus, who now lives in Virginia, who was on the Williamson County School Board and knows Casada well. Good to see you, Brad. Thanks for being here. Michael Giles says, no surprises there. You're right. None of this is a surprise. Michael, 100% right. But the surprise for me, I mean, there are some surprises here. Like, I don't want to say no surprises. It's no surprise that these guys would be up to no good. I agree with you there. But there are some surprises here. Like, it is kind of surprising that Republicans would wear wires on each other. Like, that's pretty surprising. And then it's kind of even more surprising that, like, if that happened, more Republicans aren't mad about that. Like, that's kind of wild. You know, that's a serious thing to like wear a wire on someone and get them set up for federal crimes. You know, especially like in the age of Trump, like you would think Trump people probably wouldn't be too thrilled about wearing wires. You know, none of them were too happy about Michael Cohen talking badly about his boss. It's just interesting to note like where the lines are here, you know. Jeff says he's a piece of garbage. Hope he gets 20 years. I mean, look, there's not a lot of good guys in this story. So I'm not here to defend anyone's character. I'm just here to kind of try to figure out what's going on and where the lines are. Like that's the interesting part of this, especially since when the charges were read out loud, I was there day one also. And like, this is all over something like $60,000 in business that was steered to this company, Phoenix Solutions, and potentially with kickbacks to, Robin Smith and Glenn Casada are the allegations. $60,000. Like, of all the nonsense going on up there, you know, all the probable crimes that are being committed and the rights that are being violated, like for this to be the thing that has us sitting in a federal courtroom watching the former Speaker of the House potentially go to the pen for many years, like it's pretty amazing. And so it's a Republican, eat Republican, old world. Yes. Selective outrage. There's no line. Like I agree with you guys. And then this was, I'm now going to play for you another clip from this morning. This was Todd Warner, who, you know, he's like the one Republican that actually is seemingly upset about Republicans wearing wires on each other.
Absolutely. It's what's happening. Absolutely. I thought the defense done a pretty good job yesterday. I'm no attorney, but I thought they done a pretty good job.
Sorry for yesterday. I forgot my windsock today.
You know, for the time that I was.
Oh, this was here. I'm moving to the plane.
I don't know. I think they're waiting to see.
I asked them why people
what
are
actually
mad.
comes out of what actually comes out of the trial. It's going to be interesting when things are all said and done. What actually happens.
Is he saying they wore wires?
It's my understanding that yes, we had folks wearing wires.
It's my understanding that we had folks wearing wires. Like, that's pretty intense. That's pretty intense. And I haven't really heard anybody but Todd Warner on the Republican side even speak up about that. And so now let me tell you what happened today. So today I went this morning, as you saw, that was when everybody's walking in. The first person up was this guy, Jay Reedy, who he's really just like a rank and file Republican. I'm not really sure why he was called to the stand, but I guess maybe it was his race that some of these mailers were sent out during. And so the line of questioning from the prosecution about Jay Reedy was, you know, if you had known that Cade Cothran was behind Phoenix Solutions, would you have wanted that to be the vendor that you used for these mailers? And Jay Reedy, who like, I don't really think is involved with this in any way other than, you know, he was somebody who had mailers sent out on his behalf by the caucus. he said, yeah, I wouldn't have wanted Cade Cawthorn to be associated with my campaign. That would have hurt my reputation. And that was kind of the line that the prosecution was using, was like, any association with Cade Cawthorn after all the scandals that he had been through could have risked the reputation of these rank and file Republicans, and therefore tricking them allegedly into using this Phoenix Solutions company, risked their reputation, and therefore, that was part of the damage that was done. And so that was the Jay Reedy part. Jay Reedy stepped down after a couple hours, and then the main witness today was Connie Ridley. And Connie Ridley was known at the Capitol for most of the time I've been there as, like, she's, the director of legislative administration, something like that. And, basically everything goes through her at the Capitol. Like, all the HR stuff goes through her, all the, pay stuff, per diem stuff. Like, she kind of oversees the office, but she serves under the speaker. And she's been there 30 years. She's worked under, I think, 5 speakers there. And kind of everything goes through her. Monica says Houston County allows Jay Reedy to run uncontested every year. Well, that's true for a lot of races in Tennessee, unfortunately. But you're right. And so back to Connie. So, the prosecution called her and they slow walked her through all of these, like, invoices from Phoenix Solutions, and they showed email exchanges with Robin Smith, who has since resigned, I think, or left the legislature, got beat or resigned. I think she resigned from the legislature in Chattanooga. And she was the one who was, like, pushing Connie Ridley to pay Phoenix Solutions for their work. And so the thing to understand about what's happening there is, in the legislature, every member gets a certain amount of money to use to communicate with their constituents. So in the House side, it's $3,000. On the Senate side, it's $8,000. And that's taxpayer funds that, as a sitting legislator, you get to use to send out, like, newsletters, but it can't be political. It just has to be like, here's what's going on in the district, here's what's happened. Like, and so they're allowed to use that money to communicate through mailers with their constituents. And so that's taxpayer funds. And so the vendors that they use are getting taxpayer funds. And it's not just campaign funds. And that's why, to steer this money to a business through fraudulent means and get kickbacks, that's why the feds are involved, because this is like taxpayer funds and a kickback scheme. And that's why the feds are involved. Like, I hope that makes sense. But, these are mailers with taxpayer funds. They're not just campaign funds. That's what I'm trying to get at. And there were a dozen or so of these legislators that, I guess, through the encouragement from Casada and Robin Smith, used this Phoenix Solutions group to send out these mailers and newsletters without knowing that it was actually Cade Cawthorn, potentially, allegedly, behind it. And so they established, by talking to Connie Ridley, that Robin Smith was the one that was, like, pushing to, like, fulfill the invoice to Phoenix Solutions. And Connie Ridley was saying, well, the reason that it was taking her some time to fulfill these invoices to Phoenix Solutions was because they didn't have a W-9 from Phoenix Solutions. And they didn't have, like, the necessary paperwork, I guess, so to speak. And so what they eventually showed over the course of the day was that Phoenix Solutions eventually sent them a W-9 saying it was this guy, Matthew Phoenix. And there were these, like, exchanges between Matthew Phoenix and another employee at Phoenix Solutions, which is all a little shady. And that the aha moment of the day for Connie Ridley and for the trial today was that Connie Ridley showed that she suspected something was wrong. And when she went to look at the Phoenix Solutions checks that got cashed, she says it was Cade Cothran's signature on the checks. And she matched that up to other Cade Cothran signatures that she had on file. And that's when she realized Phoenix Solutions was actually being run by Cade Cothran, and that the people that were encouraging her to pay those funds actually knew that. And that's where it becomes this, like, you know, I don't know what the word would be for it, but that's where the charges stem from. And this involves Robin Smith, who is not on trial, which is why I think most people are assuming that Robin Smith was who, like, turned on them, because she's not on trial, and there she is, like, encouraging all this to happen. So, you know, who turned on who here? You know, who is being the only people being charged are Casada and Cothran. And so, when you're hearing all this about the W-9 from Phoenix Solutions that didn't really exist, and Cade's names are on the check, like, that all starts to add up, and you're like, all right, yeah, well, it's not looking good, and again, I want to remind you guys, like, it's about $60,000. So, but if you're defrauding taxpayers in any way, like, yeah, I mean, there's going to be charges for that, compared to what else goes on in that building. Where does this stack up? I'm not sure. And then there's this whole thing where now I'll get to what happened next, because that was the prosecution's part. And then most of the day was actually the cross-examination of Connie Ridley. And that was Cade Cothran's attorney drilling down on Connie Ridley's authority to dictate this stuff. And so they were looking at the policies at the legislature that dictate this, like, postal program, and who gets to decide who the vendors are, and where Connie Ridley's authority to do that stems from. And so Cothran's attorney was, like, pulling up the policy, which actually changed, I think, midstream during all this, and said, like, where does it say that you get to decide who the vendors are that these state representatives use? And it doesn't say that in the policy. And so she's like, well, my authority stems from the speaker's office, which appoints me to lawfully execute the expenditures at the legislature. And so even though this postal program is not spelled out as far as what she oversees, she sees it as, like, part of her duties as, this role appointed by the speaker, which I'm not really sure what Cothran's attorneys are getting at there. Like, ultimately, it kind of seems like, well, if there was fraud here and, phony documents, like, that's kind of, maybe that's ball game. But part of what he seems to be getting at, and a lot more to come here. So again, this is just day 4. And a lot of people think that Speaker Cameron Sexton is taking the stand on Monday. So I'll be there Monday, and keep coming back if you want to hear more about this. And by the way, comment along if you're, like, interested in what I'm saying right now, because I'm kind of just stream of thought this right now. But, and if what I'm making sense is if what I'm saying is making sense, let me know. If it's not, feel free to ask. But part of what I think they're getting at is that ultimately Speaker Sexton controls everything. And, if Casada is saying, well, we were set up, then, maybe what they're saying is that he knew. Right? I mean, who knew what when? That, I think, is a big part of this. And I don't know that any of it is ever going to, like, really excuse what we already kind of have seen today with, this phony company, Phoenix Solutions, and, Cade potentially being behind it. And I don't know anything's going to erase that. But if they're not taking the plea deal, even though they know they have this evidence, like, it seems like what they're wanting to at least do is take somebody down with them. Like, that's, I think, what it feels like. It's like, all right, you guys set us up like this. You're coming down with us. And so I'm interested to see who gets called next week. I'm interested to see where this all goes. There's like speculation by some that the governor might get dragged into this because there's a lot of stuff going on with. Oh yeah, you just asked the right question, Dorian. I don't think the Governor Lee is part of this scam, but I do think that there is some shadiness around the way vouchers were passed initially, the way Casada held the board open for 45 minutes, and the way John Mark Windle says that he was offered a military promotion to get vouchers passed. So, I mean, that all was very shady. I just don't know if it actually is tied into this at all anymore. Now, could it have could it be where this all started? Like, could there be something about how the Fed started to look into that and then, started talking to somebody, one thing led to another, and they were like, hey, well, this whole thing's going on too. You might want to take a look at this. Yeah, maybe it's that. I don't know. But I feel pretty certain that Casada not taking the plea deal is a sign that this might get kind of juicy at some point. And I don't know what that means necessarily, but I do know that it's not every day you have the former Republican Speaker of the House on trial. And like basically the key witness is going to be the current Republican Speaker of the House. Like, it blows my mind that that's not a bigger story. It really does. And like, there's no cameras allowed in the room, so we're not going to actually see Sexton on the stand. So that's probably going to keep it from really blowing up. But this should be a big story. I mean, I don't get how it's not, honestly. I mean, Monica says, follow the money. This is very interesting. Govley was involved. Yeah. I mean, like, no matter what happens, even though the money isn't a lot, I mean, these guys are facing, I think, 20 years in prison, and a lot of it is focused on Cade right now. It wasn't a ton about Casada today. And, if you think about like what Cade allegedly did here, right? Like, he was, all the scandal stuff was separate. Like, that had already happened, and it's gross, and he got his ass kicked for that, and like deservedly so. Like, no defending that stuff, what happened there. And like, he was still in power when I was just starting out, and like, he was abusing it, and so was Casada. And like, so that comeuppance was deserved, and that happened. Right. But Monica's saying this, right? And this is kind of what I'm saying. This is what I'm getting at. He's not the big fish. He's the low hanging fruit. And it does feel like he's getting kind of thrown under the bus a little bit, because if you think about from his perspective, what he did, like, okay, scandal happened, out of a job, a high paying job. Like, he really lost he was making $16,000 a month, they said today. And so now he's like out of a job. He's like, the scandal happened, and he's like, how can I make some money? And, he's still got these relationships. And so he's like, all right, well, I'm going to become a vendor for this like program that he knew about. I mean, he knew how it all worked. And so he's like, I can do this and that. And, I'll start a phony company. That way they won't know it's me. But he still did the work, right? So it's fraud. It's not defensible if he did that. Like, but ultimately, all he did was trick people into hiring him and then doing a job. If there was a kickback there, like, that's kind of the grosser part of that to me, is like Casada and Robin taking the kickbacks to steer him the business when he's the one doing the work. None of it is great. But the idea that Cade is the one that's going to like potentially go to prison for that when all of these other things are going on that we all know about, when like these guys, I mean, look what Trump is doing, like Trump's meme coin, like that. I mean, if Cade ends up going to prison for this $60,000 like postal scheme, and Trump's getting billions of dollars, like literally selling access to the White House, like something's not right there, And so that's the part I'm trying to like wrap my brain around here. And it does sort of feel like we're missing, like something else is going on. Like we're missing something big, like this can't be about that, and maybe it is now and wasn't. And then you say Trump will pardon him. And like, maybe that's true. Yeah, I mean, we already saw he pardoned Kelsey. So like, maybe that's true. But this is Republican on Republican. So like, which of their sides would Trump be on? I have no idea. I'm just not sure. And that's kind of what makes this so incredibly interesting, and why I'm actually surprised more Democrats aren't literally sitting in there with with popcorn buckets, like actual popcorn buckets. Like I kind of thought that was going to happen because it's fascinating. So if you guys have any questions, I tried to run through it all. That's kind of the general points about what happened today. I mean, it was, the whole day. So a lot of it was like repetitive. It was like, Connie, have you seen this email? Yes. Is this you on this email? Yes. Is this the invoice? Yes. And then doing that again and again and again with like, different invoices. And, the jury was definitely bored out of their minds. But maybe that's just how it works in these things. I don't know. I haven't been around much of them. Trump can't pardon state crimes. This is a federal trial. So it's a federal crime, but you're right. But again, I just like $60,000 doesn't seem like a lot. Defrauding taxpayers is never okay, no matter how much. And, I just think there's another shoe coming. And I think the juiciest parts are yet to come. And I'm absolutely fascinated to see what happens when Cameron Sexton takes the stand, because, that's going to be, I think that's going to be the moment. If there's a moment where Cade and Glenn can like, probably not turn this around, but like, do some damage and bring somebody down with them, it's going to be when Cameron's on the stand. That's when it's going to be. And so I am fascinated to see that. And again, I don't understand why more Republicans aren't like, you wore a wire on other Republicans. Like, wow, I don't get that. And I'm not sure I ever will. Just as a last thing, I just want to show you, we've been here a while and doing this a while, and this Phoenix Solutions thing has been around for a while. And this was when I asked Casada about it, in the halls of the legislature. This was a while ago. Hang on, I want to make sure the bell doesn't go off too high in your ears. But this was when I asked Casada about the Phoenix Solutions thing a while back, before this all happened.
Hey Glenn, who's Matthew Phoenix? What? Who's Matthew Phoenix? Don't know. No idea, huh?
Oh, don't know. That's when he took a pause and he's like, don't know. And he knew. Long story short, he knew. And I am not shedding any tears for that guy, honestly. He ruled with an iron fist. The rotunda wasn't filled with troopers when Casada was there, but he was cutting mics and he was doing people dirty. And so, he's no innocent here. All right. Well, thanks for watching this. I hope this was informative in some way. If it was, I will try to plan on doing this again on Monday. after hopefully Cameron Sexton takes the stand. It's really been fascinating to just see it all playing out. I called it our Coachella today, which is kind of what it felt like. I mean, all the reporters are in there, and it's like been a parade of these legislators and some names and faces we haven't seen in a while. So I will bring you more on Monday. Thanks for following the Holler. Chip in and grab a Holler hat if you can, and I'll see you next time.